Next slide. Going to generate our agenda for you guys today. We'll start off with some orientations and announcements for myself. And then next up, we'll have our official welcome and connection and grounding from our wonderful Miss Chandra Green. And then we'll revisit and reflect on our little bets with Jonathan Santos Silva today. And then I will be carrying us through an overview of Little Bet's funding process and the accountability board. And then our data coach, Melissa McCoy, will come to us for some information about our key drivers, and we will share some next steps and close us out. That's our agenda for today. Want to reground in our goals for the Resilient Leaders Initiative? Could I get someone to come off mute today and help me generate one of these? There's an invitation there. If anyone wants to help. All right, warming up a little bit today, no problem. I will generate those for us, maybe next time. All right, I will work with organizations and agencies to take best trauma-informed practices that have worked in other communities for an organization program like our own and implement these best practices and policies. I will also support organizations and agencies to design new best practices for challenges that face their organizations. Agencies and organizations will work together to build solutions for their own organization and share with organizations like theirs. Just to ground us again in our timeline, here we are in the middle, right there in yellow. We're at Convening 5, right dead, smack dab in the middle of our program. Woohoo, pats on the back, round of applause all the way around. We're so excited for this next couple of convenings, and we can't wait to see what you guys will come up with in the next few weeks. Coming up next, we'll have our Convening 6, Reflection and Improvement, on August 10th. So keep that in the back of your head as you go through today as well. Today's learning objectives. Today we'll do a couple of things, but first we want to spend some time in community and consider the story of your little bet and create a 3-minute pitch for it. Teams will spend time giving and sharing feedback on the pitches. Teams will also understand the accountability board and funding process for little bets after we're done today. And teams will learn more information about key driver diagrams that you've worked with Melissa McCoy on. And so those are our objectives for the day. And now I'm turning it over to our wonderful MC and holder of our space, Miss Chandra Green, for our welcome, connection, and grounding. We'll see you soon, y'all.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Of course, it is always my pleasure to host space with you guys. So the first thing that I want to say is welcome to Convening 5. I cannot believe we are halfway done. It has been a journey. I'm excited for all of you. I'm excited to be a part of it. So I just want to say pats on the back and kudos for all the work that you've done, all the work that you will continue to do. And it's just our pleasure to be here to help you through this process. So now we're going to do a grounding and a connection just to get started, just to bring us all into the room, right? We were doing things before we got here. We have things to do when we leave here, but we want to be present, right? So I want us to just do a body scan, right? So if everybody can just sit, get comfortable in your seating, and we're going to do a body scan. So I want you to focus on the breath as it enters your body. And as you bring attention to your breath, we're going to scan our bodies. So we're going to start at our toes. You're welcome to close your eyes if that feels good. Pay attention to every specific part of the body, starting at the toes. You might even want to wiggle your toes. How do your toes feel? Mine are cool because I'm always barefoot. So are they cool? Are they warm? Do you have on fuzzy socks? Maybe push them into the ground. Feel how you're being supported. Move up to your ankles, maybe roll them around. How are they feeling out there? Is there any tightness? Are they loose? Are they comfortable? Move up to your calves, your knees. Just really pay attention to the sensations in your body, right? I noticed that I'm a little more chilly than I thought. I think I got some goosebumps on those legs. Move up to your thighs. Maybe pay attention to your bottom in your chair. Right? Feel that it's supported. Really let your weight come down. Let the chair support you. Move up to your belly, your abdominal. Sometimes we focus there and think, hey, I'm hungry. I haven't had lunch. Or, hey, I'm full. I just had lunch. It's a little heavy, right? But just really pay attention to what you're feeling in that gut area. Are there butterflies? Is there tightness? Is it airiness? Are you relaxed? Pay attention to any discomfort you may have or where you're feeling really, really good. Your hands, I talk with my hands a lot. I tingle, my hands get tingly sometimes. Your fingers, just really giving attention to each part of your body, your lower arms, your upper arms. And for me, the most important part of my body to pay attention to, right, is my back and my shoulders, right? My neck, because that's where I carry my tension. So pay attention to those areas. Are they tight? Are they loose? Give them a little roll, right? Give them a little roll. Maybe you need a little stress. Just stretch. Just give your body what it needs. Really sense into your body. Notice the sensations, right? I see Beachy rolling her neck. I do that a lot. That lets you know where you are. Sometimes we tense up and we don't know what our shoulders are at, our ears. And I realize, hey, I need to relax my shoulders. You know, my neck is feeling a little tight, right? So really bring your attention there. And then all the way up through the crown of your head. How is your head feeling? Is it nice? Is it airy? Is there some tension there? Pay attention to it. And then through your breath, try to relax your entire body. Pay attention to the air, the cool air as it goes into your nose, and then the warm air as it exits your nose. Try to breathe deeply and to really relax, maybe 2 or 3 breaths like that. And as we do that, notice. And I feel myself even calming down, slowing down a little bit, right? So hopefully that helped bring you into the room, put you a little bit more relaxed as we spend this time together. Thank you for going through that with me. And let's get started. So next we're gonna have Jonathan come back and talk to us about the little bets, about revisiting and reflecting on the little bets. So Jonathan, take us away.
All right, all right. Happy Wednesday, everybody. And just really quickly picking up on the theme of this being the midpoint, just take a moment to appreciate what midpoints are. That's why I love Wednesday. Every time I text my team, I put hump day, I put the little camel, because the beginning is always like full of infinite possibility. What is this project or this new job or this new relationship? And then when something comes to an end, there's time for reflection, maybe celebration. But the midpoint is kind of like equal parts. Like there's still so much ahead of us. So whatever you've learned from your little bets, we can take it to the next level. And at the same time, we can reflect on what have we learned so far? What progress have we made? What relationships have we forged through interviews and engagement? So it's just so exciting. I love it. I love it. I'm glad to be here with you. So my portion for today, as has already been alluded to, is about getting back into our little bets. Y'all have already done so much incredible work, and yet there's more to come. Remember that the purpose of a little bet is to help you test ideas quickly. Maybe in before this experience or in past organizations or roles, you didn't do prototyping. Someone got a great idea, we got a full head of steam, we jumped into it. And you may have experienced success that way. You may have also experienced failures. And sometimes they're big failures because of little things that we may have overlooked or voices we didn't hear that might have saved us a lot of time, energy, and pain. And so hopefully what you're experiencing is that while this could be taking you out of your norm, your comfort zone, taking you out of your norm, that you're learning valuable things rapidly and with a whole lot less effort, time, and energy going into something before you realize, ooh, maybe we should tweak this, change it, or discontinue it. All right. It's also about feedback from your target, communities. So whether that is students, families, elders, church members, whoever those target communities are, the populations that you care for, that you serve, and that serve you, you're able to connect with them. And I say this often, when we come with that grand idea and we've already put $20,000 or we got $1 million grant, and then we go ask for feedback, the kindest people, the people who really care about you, oftentimes are scared to give you feedback because you already put in $1 million or 1 million hours. But with a little bet, you got a little cardboard box or some sticky notes, it's a whole lot safer to give you feedback because they're not dashing all your hopes and dreams. They're helping to correct and they're getting to invest early. So it's really vital that we use these little bets for that feedback. So we're gonna, we did a lot of testing. You've already done that. We may have more time for that. And more than anything, it's about getting multiple at bats. Like you've got to try probably 3 or 4 things where in the past you might not have had that time. And so keeping with the baseball analogy, now that you have some of this experience, now that you've engaged your community, maybe in deeper ways or in new ways than what you've done in the past, now it's time to pitch. And I'm not going to overgeneralize, but I'm sure there are some that when you hear that word pitch, them butterflies that Chandra had you looking for in your belly, they start rumbling. Because I got to get in front of people, I got to sell, I got to talk. Oh no, I don't want to do that, or I'm not comfortable. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about what we mean when we say pitch. And so we are not talking about getting up there and doing the hard sale and trying to convince people to do something they don't want to do. This is more about effective storytelling that helps you build buy-in within your organization or within the communities that you serve, so that they either sign up for programs you're offering, they join your team, they fund your efforts, right? Like, how do we get people from outside who have not been a part of the 2 and 3 and 4 rounds of little bets, and they haven't been there from day one, to understand the story, your why, your purpose, what drives you, the heart that you bring to your work, so that they can become part of it, right? And so as you create your pitch, we want you to consider a couple of things. First, how might your team use those things to tell the story of your little bet in a short, digestible way, right? So those experiences, the quotes that you gathered, maybe some of the actual imagery, right? To make this a really vibrant experience, how do you use all these tools and this information that you've amassed and accumulated to tell an effective story for folks who have not been there from day one? We also would like you to think about, how can you use the pitch to share some of the most critical parts of your little bet? So like, clearly y'all are doing this work because you believe in it and you want to take your work to the next level. But I often think that my job as a founder of an organization is not solely to advance the work that we want to do and that we want to be a part of, but hopefully, how do they say it? To impact the field, right? How to get others to think differently. So part of your story, your pitch, is not only to secure the grant for you, but maybe to get that philanthropist or that foundation to think differently, not only about how they support your work, but how they support others, right? Where they look to invest in the future. And then thirdly, how important is it for your team to define that story and message first, so you then can share it with people in your organization and community? Everyone has a story. There's a story to every work. And I tell you this, if you as a team that is deeply passionate and connected to your work don't figure out how to tell your story, somebody else will. And that person may care about your work and may support it and may do a great job, but they may not. Maybe not even because they're trying to sabotage you, but they haven't been part of all your efforts. So they lack the nuance and the deep understanding of your process and who you've engaged. So these are just some of the important things to consider when you're building a pitch. Let's see. So what we're going to do is take 30 seconds. There's going to be a little pause and kind of like activity. You already heard me enough already. So we'll take a break. And I want you to take 30 seconds to consider the following prompt. So push out a year from now or even further and think what headline. And it's funny because I was talking to my kids about newspapers. I don't think they could understand when I was telling them about I had my first job. I was a paper boy and delivering. They didn't know what I was talking about. They were like, what? So you went to people's houses and left paper? Like, what are you talking? They had no idea because they don't read newspapers, but y'all do. Y'all know what newspapers are. Maybe you don't anymore, but you know what they are. If you were to pick up that paper, old school style, that headline, what would that headline be a year from now that is talking about your organization's work on this particular program? What would it be? Now, again, remember, headlines are usually not long, 5-6 words, maybe if you got the above the fold. And so you've got to get to what's critical, what's the heart of the work. And so we're going to take about 30 seconds to do that. And as soon as you have one, go ahead and drop it in the chat. This is the first draft. It does not have to be the perfect one. So don't let good or perfect be the enemy of good. What would I want the headline to be? And just drop it in there. So again, just throw something in there, and in maybe like 10 more seconds, I'll jump in and start just reading some. So the Family Caregiver Program at UCPCOG has reduced caregiver stress by addressing trauma and ACEs. Yeah, snap that up. Supportive work environment created across agency. Yeah, can you imagine a year from now, if folks are telling that story, what that means for your work? I used to help. Oh no, I thought that was a headline. Okay, Melinda, we got some more. I got some more delivery boys and girls. Y'all know what I went through. Older relatives in the community find great confidence in their caregiving. Yeah. ECC team made things better for the community. I would want to read that article, right? How church creates program that takes a new holistic approach for kids, right? I want that in my community. Wilson County DSS cares about the community and their staff members. We need more of that. And there's so many more. I'm not going to read them all, but that's what I'm talking about. I got goosebumps reading some of those headlines, and I'm like, okay, now I want to read, right? And that's what a pitch is. Now, we don't have to go back, but if any of y'all are baseball fans, whether that's like Major League Baseball or you had kids that did T-ball and pony leagues and all that, there's nothing worse than a pitcher. And maybe this is softball too, but there is nothing worse than the pitcher that takes, 27 minutes to get the pitch, right? And they're standing there. They're standing there and no, that's not the pitch. No. And they turn the ball around and they're doing all this and they're doing all that. And it takes forever. It drags the game out. And this is the point of this pitch and why we use headlines. We want our pitches to be, almost like elevator style. If I'm on the elevator with Chandra, we're going up 3-4 stories. Can I get that pitch to her and leave her wanting more, like these headlines? I don't have to put every single detail. I have to put enough to make her ask, so tell me more. So what happened then? That's what we want, okay? So this is awesome. Y'all got the idea. This is great. Yeah, Vijay, I can't wait to read this paper, right? I'm gonna have to sign up for delivery. Awesome. So we're gonna continue. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a breakout. And so the first thing you want to do when you get into your breakout is select a timer. With your team, we're going to take 12 minutes to fill in a pitch template on slide 2. So you have the handout, the virtual handout, you're going to go slide 2. And pitch can be less than 3 minutes, but not more. And so what I'm going to tell you right now is you probably don't really know what 3 minute feels like, right? Especially when you get into pitching, because you think, oh, this is really short. And then you get into the actual pitch, it'll go long. So this is what practice is for. But you want to try to strive for 3 minutes or less, that elevator style pitch, that headline style pitch that gets people excited about your work and wanting to know more, whether they're a funder or a potential participant. So you're going to select the timekeeper. You're going to track 12 minutes and come up with a 3 minute pitch in your copy of the handout. And coaches, please support with note taking and getting them ready. All right. Any questions before we break up?
And then just before we hop in, the breakout rooms are already made. I'll open them, but I just wanted to walk through the template so everyone's 100% sure. So the link that I dropped should take you here. Just one person on the team needs to make a copy, so it can be the coach. And then this is what you're filling in. So it kind of breaks it down into sections. You can, use it as you will, but it's, a quick intro or tagline, frame the why, summarize your idea. You might want to throw in a quote or a story from an empathy interview about why you think this is a unique and good idea. And then if there's a call to action that you want the person you're talking to do, give you feedback, participate in something, you could throw that in here. And then just to be helpful, we have an example on slide 4. It's from the courthouse team from last year's program. And so, I could just share it here real quick, just so that we're saving time. But this basically reads like, my name is in this case, the Honorable Carol White, Clerk of Court for Edgecombe County. We're currently facing a crisis in Edgecombe where too many young Black men are incarcerated and then released from prison with no support. This causes harm to them and perpetuates cycles of trauma for their families. So that's like the why. We're working on a little bit to support soon to be returning citizens to create a plan for how they'll access resources upon their release. We will create a volunteer prison ministry where members of our church will be trained to provide pre-release support to people before they re-enter society. So this is like the little bet. When we interviewed recently returned citizens, we learned that they usually only meet with their caseworker once before release and sometimes not at all. Then they get dropped off by a bus in the middle of the county with zero support or connections to anything. Often they're immediately homeless, hungry, unemployed, and alone. So this is like the why that came from a bunch of stories from interviews. And so if we want to reduce our prison population and begin to heal our community, we need to provide better support to our returning citizens. Would you be interested in joining a meeting to learn more about how to become a volunteer for our ministry? And so that was their kind of call to action for their little bet. So that's just an example of kind of, one sentence per box, what you might be thinking about to put your story together. So yeah, with that, I think what we'll do is open up breakout rooms and you'll just opt into your team. Before I do that, are there any questions about the template or the activity? Cool. And then Courtney, are we thinking like 1:37 would be come back, 12 minutes?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to open rooms and then you should be able to choose your team from the breakout room tab.
All right, looks like we have critical mass. My Brady Bunch is filling all up with all these lovely faces. So I want to ask you very quickly, one word in the chat only, how are you feeling about pitches? So like excited, nervous, butterflies, whatever. But one word, just throw it in the chat, how you're feeling about pitches. And then we're going to jump back into another quick breakout. Okay, accomplished, stressed, inspired, comfortable. And so we're running the gamut. Let me ask this too, maybe coaches can speak up for us while everyone's writing in the chat. How we're about to jump into like a team breakout where you'll be able to practice a pitch with another team. Do you think your teams are ready for it, or would you need maybe another minute or two to just prep that pitch? Somebody, I think we got some French in here, man. Y'all are really getting creative with these words. Let's go. We multilingual in the chat. Coaches, you think we're ready, or do you think we could use another minute or two to not polish, because it's not going to be perfect, but to just refine before we do the partner share? Another minute, more time. Okay, so we'll jump. Okay, so what we're going to do, what you see on the screen is we're not doing that yet. We're going to go back into our groups, just put a little bit of refinement and final touches on the pitch, and then we'll come back here and do do regrouping for the share. All right. So take all those inspired, accomplished energies and emotions back into the space with you. And let's just get ready for the share after this.
Great. So
again, I want to invite you, one word in the chat. Might be the same word, might be a different word. Not just about the pitch, but about this opportunity to get feedback from folks that you trust and respect. And so one word, helpful, valuable, eye-opening, hyphenated, right? Make it, if you want to make it a one word, but What was that experience like? And so as you're doing that, I want to just, and by all means, throw shout outs, kudos, encouragement in the chat as well. I encourage you to keep practicing pitches. One way to do that is the folks that you have interviewed in the past, or folks that you have brought in to walk through your storyboard, they already are invested. And so it does two things. One, it brings the loop of communication back, right? So if I interviewed Melissa and I got valuable insight from her, now I come back and say, hey, remember that project you gave me you interviewed for? I want to give you an update. And then I can give my pitch and see, did I really hear what she was telling me? Does this feel like it's valuable and an appropriate response? And, she might be able to give you some valuable feedback as well, as far as like what you could do to strengthen the pitch. So keep it handy as you plan and execute additional little bets. It's going to become a tool when you're seeking funding. And the reason we keep it short, and the reason why it's valuable for everyone in your team to get practice, even if, you say, I am not the one to pitch, I'm not out there, I don't like, if you can internalize the pitch, you never know who you're going to be in front of, who you're going to be in an elevator with, in a pew at church with, at the parent conferences, at the gas station. Someone who, hey, are you part of the such and such? Yes, I am. Tell me more about it. And you have your pitch. So pitch doesn't necessarily mean you got to be on stage in full regalia, ready for all that and everything. It could just be in the grocery store, bump carts. Let me tell you about. You never know. And so this is a way to make connections, draw other people into your work, and create buy-in for the type of transformational change that you hope to enact in your community. Okay. So we're going to wrap this portion up in just a moment. I wonder though, if there are any burning questions that you want to ask before we do turn the page. All right. It's a big takeaway for me as I'm looking in the chat. Enlightening, inspiring, insightful. To me, these are words that like conjure up light and brightness and like anticipation of good things. And so even though I know for a fact that y'all talked about a little bit of nerves going into this, that you're leaving in a good energy space, I think it really bodes well for your efforts to pitch your projects and your work to new folks. So a little bit of what's to come. No matter where you are in your little bet process, you're on track. We're at this midpoint. We're celebrating and we're looking ahead to so much possibility. And just like children, any of you that are either parents or aunties or grandparents or educators, every child progresses at their own rate, and so with the teams as well. If another team is ahead of you or behind you, they're just where they need to be, right? And so don't worry about if you're not caught up or you're not moving as quickly as someone else. You'll get there when you get there. In the next month or so, what matters most is that you're making meaningful progress, right? So that you keep going forward. That's what matters, not that you're at the same place as everyone else. So it's like, this could look like clearly deciding who you're serving, right? So refining who your target clients or community served may be and what their challenge is. It could be identifying several new little bet ideas that you need to decide between and getting feedback on that. Could be taking one little bet and testing it in the real world. Could be pitching, right? Pitching to a funder, pitching to some potential participants, right? Testing your little bets could be creating flyers to get people signed up for an event. It could be setting up an info table at a farmer's market or at a school, back to school event, that might be coming in the next month or so. Whatever it is, just making positive steps forward. And even if you feel stuck, take a step forward, right? And get clarity. Reach out to your coach, reach out to ROI, reach out to me if you want some support with that. But trust your gut. Y'all do this work for a living, right? We're teaching you little bets but you still have all of the knowledge and all of the skills and all of the education that you brought here. So you are experts in your own right. So take steps forward and just know that you have this awesome community to support you. If you feel stuck and need that little boost, I know for a fact that there are folks on here who would love to jump on Zoom or on a phone call with you. If you said, hey, I want to run something by you, I want to try my pitch, or I want to tell you what a new little bet we're working on. We'll love to do that. All right.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Up next, we're going to have Courtney, and she's going to give us the overview of the little bit funding process, right? The money. Do we need money? How we get money? So this is exciting. Take it away, Courtney.
All right. Thank you for that enthusiastic introduction again, Chandra. I appreciate you. And so excited to dig into the money. So you guys can start testing some of your little bets and start making some really exciting progress. Just to give you a brief overview of the board, the purpose of the board is just a cohort of community leaders who provide feedback and accountability for the Resilient Leaders Initiative, which you guys are all a part of now. They'll share perspective with you guys in your applications, and they will hold the program accountable for building a more trauma-informed and resilient Eastern NC. Membership consists of just a really diverse group of community members from different backgrounds, with particular attention for facilitating resilience building spaces and training in longstanding institutions and communities. So a lot of the folks that we engage with the board have experience in some of the same fields that you do and have engaged in resilience and trauma work in some way as well. Responsibilities for the board mainly include reviewing requests for funding materials for teams for the Resilient Leaders Initiative. And they are charged with using a process to evaluate these requests and also provide feedback when needed to teams. So that's a little bit about the board in and of itself. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about the funding process overview. And the process for funding is fairly simple, but I want to walk through a few steps with you first, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So if you look at the top line, you'll have each phase at which we'll do each thing, right? And so in the preparation box to the left, you'll see that we want RLI participants to complete phase 1 as a part of this process. You have to complete all your convenings and get to a point where you're ready to even talk about requesting funding through your little bit, right? And so we've done that work. And so now it's time to think about how we want to request these funds and what we want to talk about in our application around our little bit. And so next you'll see there's an opportunity for you guys to submit a written or video application for your little bits for your funding. Participants will submit a video, like I said, or a written application via Google form. And if you click on that for me really quickly, I can show them this. And this is what you guys will use. To be very clear, this is what you will use to apply for funding, right? Simple Google form, name, team name, coach, email of the contact person for the application. And so once you select here at the bottom, the video submission opportunity, it'll give you 2 options, video or written. And once you select that option, it'll populate the questions that you need for your particular application. And so some of those questions might include, if you decide to write your application out via this form and not submit a video, the questions will include things like provide an overview of the challenge you're hoping to address in your funding application. What's your priority population? Describe the proposed little bet and any overview of scientific data. A lot of you have already started to gather that data, so you're already steps ahead in this process. You have that data readily available at your fingertips. And so other things include, anticipated outcomes for your little bet. How do you plan to track these outcomes, which is some of the work you're already doing with Melissa. So you've already started to front load a lot of this stuff in this application, as you can see, which is great because in your groups and in your weekly meetings, you won't have to spend a lot of time doing this because we've built up to this point where you guys can go ahead and start loading that information in to get the moolah, okay? So again, there's several functions to this application. You can do it written or a video submission, right? And if you do a video submission, there'll be like an upload feature here like Vichi's sharing with us now. And you can see how to upload things. There's some templates, some examples. We're requesting a budget from you guys. So there's an example of how you can frame that budget for you a little bit. If you want to use that, those tools are there for you at your discretion. So very simple Google form. And also very important because again, it'll help us get you guys money, and it also help us give the board a wonderful opportunity to review your information in its entirety related to your little bet. And so if we can just shift back, thanks Vici, the accountability board will meet and review applications and share any feedback with teams, right? As needed though, teams sometimes might be asked for additional information, right? And so the board will communicate that to teams via myself. So I will be working with the board to communicate the needs that arise from your applications to all teams, okay? So that could, again, look like a written, support document. It could look like another video. So you guys get the discretion to choose how you would like to engage. And then lastly, there's a decision made around feedback. So the board will share their decision and the RLI team with us and the coach, and then the decisions and updates will be given in the following convening. And so something that I want to go back to in the simple written and video section that I neglected to mention is that there will be a rubric that you guys will be graded against, and not graded, but like reviewed against. And so the rubric is super simple. Vici, if you want to elevate that, yep, great. So it's just a very simple scale that our accountability board members will use to, score your applications. And so if you'll see, there's a lot of intentionality in the rubric directly related to the application. So some of the application questions you'll see will be reflected in the rubric. So how well did you answer that question, right? So we want that connectivity to be threaded throughout your experience with funding. And so this rubric will be specifically utilized by the board to review those applications. And lastly, the deadlines, and we'll hold on to this slide one more minute, Vici, that right here at the bottom, application deadlines are upcoming. And to be fair, there is an opportunity to apply for funds before these deadlines, right? Or even after. But you just have to be mindful when you apply, because you may not get a response until the corresponding convening happens, right? And so no matter what, these are some of the deadlines that we've outlined for you guys to share this information with us by. So definitely want to be working with your teams to develop a strong plan around how to apply. And one more thing before we get into that planning piece. Teams will have up to about $16,000 total to apply for. So good amount of change there to do some really cool stuff with, to buy some supplies, to get printing materials, to buy, gifts for folks. So there's a lot you can do here. And I want you guys to get super creative. I want you guys to really lean into just thinking through what this experience needs to mean and how we can help you fund it, okay? And next up, we have a little, just a little information about applications and review, right? Again, teams need to apply for funding using those deadlines as described, right? But there is some flexibility there, but so just want to name that. But I wanted to help you guys understand a few things about the application and what a strong application would have, right? What are the contents, right, of a strong funding application? And the strong contents would be evidence to support the need in your organization, right? Connection to the target population shared in your empathy interviews. Like, we want to hear that stuff. Quotes or stories from your target population stating how this idea might help them. Consider what outcomes you want to achieve and be clear on that before you submit. You're already, again, working alongside Melissa McCoy to help support you in that data work. So you guys have already built the foundation for a lot of these application components. So we don't foresee you guys, I personally don't foresee you guys spending hours and hours on this application because you've already put the legwork in. And so review will look like the board meeting to review those applications. on a contingent basis. And then the board will pre-screen submissions using that rubric I shared. Those meetings will happen monthly amongst the board. And if there are no applications to review in a certain round of applications, then we won't meet. The accountability board won't convene. Okay. So those are just a few little simple points about the board, the funding process, the application itself, what makes a strong application, and then how those applications will be reviewed by the board. And next up, we're going to invite our wonderful Mr. Corey Williams, who is the principal of the HOPE program. He is here with us today, and he is going to share a little bit about his team's experience last cohort with the funding process, and to give you guys some clarity and context around just how you can approach this process and any VIP tips that they can access. So I will turn it over to you, Mr. Williams. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say congratulations to the members that have been invited to the second cohort. Thumbs up to you. This is a great process, a great environment to be a part of. I just want to speak to the experience that my staff and I have had with ROI. First of all, they are very supportive, and helped me with my vision for the HOPE program. Just want to share some things that we've done the last year at the HOPE program. I had a vision to provide an opportunity for my students to be able to have jobs within the community. So they partnered with us and collaborated with us on getting involved with community businesses that were interested in hiring students. So we were able to, that was a small bet. I heard that mentioned before. That was a small bet that we had to connect our students with employment, because we know that that helps students with self-esteem when they have jobs and money in their pocket. So this was something that we were able to partner with ROI on. And we also created a process with them where they actually had to go through coaching with interview skills, resume, filling out a job application, and they helped us with this process as well. Also, there was a small bet that, I saw a need for to have supports for our students for as a counselor, and we don't have a counselor like every day on campus. So we was able to partner with ROI and be able to bring a health and wellness counselor, a therapist on campus to help our students with their goals, academics, and just issues within their life. So, and we have seen great results with this, where we are able to provide wraparound services, where we're not only able to meet with those students and counsel them and give them guidance during the school year, we're also doing that as we speak now in the summertime. So we have that connection there, and ROI was a great part of that process for us. And also another little small bet that we had for our students. Some of our students don't get to share their story. So we had a photo voice project which was another small bet that was a great success, where students were able to learn about photography, but it was more about more than taking pictures. This was an opportunity for them to just to see something that they may not ever experience. And some of our students were offered jobs based off of their photos and their love that they grew for the photography field. So ROI was very instrumental in these small bets. So I say this to encourage you, to let you know that you have people that's behind you that want to see you succeed. I'm thankful for Seth and Vici and just the ROI family for what they've done for the Hope program. And you have access to your coaches. So I want to encourage you, please utilize your coaches. If you have someone assigned to you, don't, there's no crazy question. They would tell you, I think outside of the box. So, and they got in the weeds with me on some of on my projects, and that's what they're here for, to help you support your vision so that you can be successful. So I'm just honored to be a part of this program, this group of people, because they're really passionate about providing change and making sure that they support you the best way they can. If they don't know, if they don't have the answer, trust and believe they will seek out the answers so they can get back to you so that you can have the answer to your question. So again, I just grateful for you all creating this time for me to just to share a little bit about how ROI has supported the Hope program. So best wishes to you all in your endeavors, and I know that you will have great success. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Williams. Always a joy to share space with you and hear about the wonderful work that Hope is up to, and give your students our best. So we've heard a little bit about the accountability board. I'm going to turn it right back over to Chandra so she can cue up our next segment.
Thank you. And before I do that, I just want to say, if there's some questions or some nervousness about submitting applications to the accountability board, I was a member of the accountability board of cohort 1. So I just want to give you a few tips. One, there is no ask that's too small, right? So if you need $200 to fix the printer in your office, to do something you need to do, right? Whatever you may need to bring a little bit forward, it could be a big ask or a small ask, but there's no ask too small and no ask really too big. It might have to be adjusted. We can talk about it, but submit it. Also, and I think Vici did put this in the chat, but I want to say this because people thought about it. You don't have to put in one request. You can put in multiple requests. You can put in as many requests as you want. And I would encourage you not to try to wait to have all the requests together. If you know we need money to do this part, submit the request for that. If something comes up next week and you have a new little bit you want to try and you need money around that, submit that request. Don't hold them. Don't hold them for the deadline dates. I'm not sure. We met every 2 weeks because the applications were rolling. I think I heard Courtney say monthly. I don't know about that part, but don't hold them for the dates. Just submit them as they come up. You can do as many as you want. They can be small, they can be big. There is nothing silly, right? And as long as and we don't decline based on the fact that if there's something missing that we don't understand, the board doesn't understand, they will send that question back through Courtney or Vici or someone. We don't just say no. So submit what you have, even if you're nervous about it. If we have questions around it, the board will ask, but don't let nervousness or apprehension or fear keep you from asking, no matter how small or how big, for the funds to move your projects forward.
Thank you, Chandra.
No problem. And if there's no questions, I am going to introduce Melissa McCoy, our data coach expert, and she's going to talk to us about the data.
Hello, everybody. This has been an exciting convening. It feels like we're finally kind of like getting moving. And I have really enjoyed the last month getting to connect with each of you. I think I've connected at least once with every team. And it's been really, I mean, this is the kind of the stuff that I live for. I love getting in the weeds and really learning and hearing about the work that you all are doing. So if we can advance one slide, today I have about 10-15 minutes and I am just going to share one tool, and it is called a key driver diagram. You'll hear me refer to the acronym KDD. Basically, it's just a theory of change document, kind of like a logic model. And if you think about the pitch that we just spent kind of the bulk of the session talking about, the pitch is kind of like the forward facing, the front of the house communication around your little bet and your project and your why. And your key driver diagram can really be kind of like the back of the house document. It's like what the team is putting all of their learnings into. It's articulating your theory of change. So organizing ideas, it can help organize collaboration, connecting existing and future planned work, really focusing the work and kind of providing a checks and balance around, if you're doing something, but it's not directly connected to this theory, like, then the check is like, should we really be doing it? Or are we missing something in our theory that we need to add on here? And then lastly, just kind of like the pitch, it's really a strong communication tool, but primarily, not always, I mean, it can be used kind of outwardly facing, but there's a lot on it, and it's kind of like a dense document, and it can be intimidating the first time you see it. So with that, I'll kind of show you an example. So I've highlighted here the three main sections of a key driver diagram. So it kind of flows like a logic model, except it flows left to right. You start on the left there with your global aim and your smart aim. Those are just kind of continuous improvement words for goals. And your population, where are you going to start with these particular little bets? And that gives you the why. So your pitch should inform your KDD and vice versa. So if you've got a really strong why for your pitch that you just worked on, plug that into your global aim. And then your smart aim gets at kind of like, how are we going to know how well we are tracking towards that global aim? What are we really trying to move in the next 3 months or by the time that this program is finished? That's what our calls and the conversations that we've been having between me and each team have been. We're trying to land on that smart aim that's going to really tell the story around how well these little bets are performing towards that bigger goal. And then that middle section, key drivers, I like to call these levers sometimes. And a lot of times in our work, we hear a lot about challenges and barriers and things that are broken within the system. This is kind of the flip side of that. So what are the things that need to exist for you to ultimately reach that global aim? Sometimes I say, if all of these things were in place, this would be nirvana. So and these are nouns, right? This isn't the stuff that you want to do or think you should do. These are the things that have to be in place. So the ECC team that is going to share their example here in a minute, they're about the things that have to exist within their system, like trust and relationships. Those have to exist in order for them to reach their goal, but we'll let them share a little bit more about that. So the key drivers are the what, and then the how is your little bets. And you can list the ones that you're already trying and the ones that you think you may want to try. What's great about this is that, a lot of times if you're working collaboratively, there's a big group of people and maybe not everybody is aligned, or there's not consensus around where we should start with the first little bet. If that's a problem, sometimes you can, just throw them on there and then pick an order that we're going to do them in. But as long as folks can see their ideas on there, you're honoring any contribution that's been made. What else was I going to say about those? And you'll see kind of in the next slide, the example from ECC, but I wanted to show this with just kind of like the sections of it, the why, the what, and the how. But also you'll see in the next slide, wait just a second. This is what each of your templates will look like. I think most of you have seen the template that I created for your project. And we there's a little legend, if you see down there in the right corner. Active little bet that we are testing is in green. Potential would be in white, and then an adopted or an abandoned little bet could be in gray. And that's just a way to kind of track what we've tried, what's worked and what hasn't, and also let you know what is active, what are you currently working on. So if that first little bet, when they fill that in with the little bet that they've actually already identified and they're getting ready to start testing, they'll write in what the little bet is and they'll make that green. And then it's just like a way to look at it and see, okay, this is what's on, but we're not necessarily doing everything yet. And it also forces you to think about, okay, so that little bet, what levers in the system or key drivers in the system will that little bet affect? And if it will affect any of those key drivers, then you make it green. And if it doesn't affect them, then you leave it white. And then it's just kind of like a flag that this is something we know we're going to have to get to, this access to resources, but we're not focused on that right now. And so with that, I'm going to pause. And I know I have a volunteer from my ECC team, but I'm not sure who it is who just decided to step up.
It's me.
Megan. All right, go ahead.
So hi you guys, my name is Megan. We'll kind of be going over what our key driver diagram is. And basically our big picture, the why, for our global aim is to ensure students success by removing social emotional barriers to educational persistence or completion. So we're trying to measure like enrollment and completion rates. Our SMART aim, which is including our weekly measure, and we are trying to increase the percentage of students that the class instructor is engaged with enough to what barriers they are currently facing. So we're using our model of my class. And right now we kind of know 65% of the barriers of our students. And our aim, SMART aim, is to get it to 85% by September the 16th of 2022. So that's encompassing part of our summer session 2 and part of our fall session. Our population will be our initial population, which will be my class, and then we're going to plan to expand it to our NC Works class. So we're not only just talking about the population of my class, but also of a whole, but also ELA learners, which is English language students that are learning English as a second language. And our key drivers is to be effective, empathetic, engaging instructors, build trust, access to resources, and real-time identification of barriers. And one of our little bets that is going to be supported with everything of our key drivers is to support groups led by instructors.
Thank you so much, Megan. That was a really great overview. So this will need to be updated, and the team will put the date that it was last updated, and the next time that they fill in this little bet, it'll say version 2. And the reason I'm kind of pointing that out is because this is a lot different than most planning tools that we typically use in the public and social sector, in my experience. Oh, earring just fell out. It's a living document. It is not something that is, like the strategic plan that is often like framed and put on the board and nobody then ever touches it again. This is something that should be at the front of every team meeting. This is something that should change, be wordsmithed as you go. The more you learn, the more that these key drivers will be they'll become more descriptive, or they might even be broken apart. There might be multiple parts of trust that you learn that you have to get at, and maybe we break those out. But the more you learn, the more detailed this will be, but it will be ever changing. And it should be. And that's kind of how this is different than any other type of kind of like planning, project plan or project management type of document. So with that, I'm going to take a pause and see if there are any questions. No questions? Okay, we can click ahead one more slide. I've got one more example in here. A lot of times folks just like to see additional examples of things like this. This is from another leadership course that I was working on a couple years ago. This is the Hope Center for Children. They were a homeless shelter for youth in their community in Spartanburg. And so they were working on improving completion rates of client records at their faucet house. And they wanted to get from 64 to 90%. And what I kind of wanted to point out here was that while that smart aim doesn't sound really exciting or like tugs at your heartstrings, the global aim does. And this is kind of like what they would talk about in their pitch. They are really, so they would say, you know, we're focused on providing reliable client-focused services that are supporting children and families on their path to safe and healthy life. And so the global aim is the big why. It's the thing that tugs at the heartstrings. And this is what you're kind of going to want to lead with. Is somebody says, what is your project about? What are you working on? You might share your global aim. And then the smart aim is really what your team is focused on and how well your team will know how well they're doing. How well are you doing the things? How well are your little bets working? Some key drivers that they worked on: access to a reliable database, the staff understanding, and they tested a whole bunch of things. And ultimately they did, I think, reach their goal on this particular project. And so we would track against this goal on a run chart, a time chart. And that's something that I hope that we can gather data and be able to build for you all as well for each of your projects. So that this key driver diagram, along with a run chart with the data on it for this smart aim, can really tell the whole story of the impact that you were able to make with this project over time. And I think there's one more slide and then I will sign off. This is just a visual that I think is really helpful to share how all tools like the key driver diagram can really help align the work and communicate that all of these little bets, so little bets 1 through 3, they are supporting the first project. But then there might be another project with additional little bets underneath that. But if those smart aims are all aligned to the big goal, all the little bets from the bottom up are driving towards that big goal, that big outcome that is ultimately, like, you know, what your stakeholders in your community really, really care about. So just another visual to kind of show how this supports alignment and just a different way to kind of communicate. Are there any questions? Let me check the chat real quick. All right. So I'll be reaching out to kind of continue where we've been with each team, get you on the path to a really fully developed theory of change, and looking forward to it.
All right, you guys. So we are at the end of our time. Can you believe it? 2 hours flew. 2 hours flies when you're having fun. So I'm going to close us out and share some next steps. And then at the end of this, you guys will be able to have some extra work time. I know you guys are eager to get back to those pitches, get some more feedback. So if that is something that you'd like to do, we will have a little bit of time after that. Won't interrupt your time after this space that much. So if we can advance to the slide, going to generate our post-convening work and instructions for the next couple of weeks. So you have a couple of tasks here, and I don't want anyone to get overwhelmed by the tasks because you've already done something with all of these tasks in one way or the other. And so there's not a lot of alarm that needs to happen, but we want you guys to revisit a few things, and I'm going to talk about that now. The first thing that I think, and that we think is an org that you guys need to kind of focus on moving forward, is taking a big step. You've heard that theme throughout our time today. You've heard Jonathan elevate things like related to that. You've heard Vici share some things about how you guys on your teams can progress forward and step ahead in the program and step ahead with your little bits, right? And so this will look like conducting perhaps another round of feedback on a little bit. Use this feedback to update an existing idea a little bit, or both, right? And then you can take whatever you found and use slide 5 on the template to update your progress, right? So this task is very specific, right? If you as a team are feeling like, oh, we don't know where we want to land with all the little bets, we don't know which one to identify, this is the time to get really nitty gritty, get really granular and make that step. So we want to decenter analysis paralysis, right? Don't overthink it, right? That's a constant theme that I've said in the chat today. Don't overthink it. Just let it flow. Think about what's most impactful to the community that you want to serve and go with that and let that lead you as you make that big step. We want to see those steps taken by next Wednesday, the 20th. So you have a week to kind of finish up everything related to your bets, make a few tweaks, get some more feedback, and let us know where you land with those progress updates. The next task, you want to make sure you refine that pitch. And a way that we want you guys to engage with the pitch is to revisit your stakeholder activity in the high power section specifically. So we want to have you guys reach out to the people listed in that high power section and schedule a time with them to share that refined pitch, because that will help you increase your buy-in. That will help you get people excited about what you're up to and continue to generate buzz for your little bit and hopefully the goals that you want to be true for your program, for your little bit and what you want to be true for the program later on, right? And then we're gonna have you guys connect with Melissa McCoy again on the data process and receive feedback on your key driver template. So we guys want you to continue to work through those. And please refer any questions to Melissa. I know several organizations in our midst have staff related to data, staff related to analytics in your own organizations that do this work for you. But I want to take a moment for us to decenter that, right? Because the data work that we're doing in this space is very specific to a target population that you might not be considering in your data in your organizations, right? And so definitely want you guys to utilize this resource for this key driver document, because it's going to be very essential as you move forward, program and systematizing your little bit in the future. Lastly, we want you to capture results and feedback from your pitches on slide 2 of the Convening 5 template and add it to the deliverables folder for us, okay? So make sure you let us know how those pitches go, and you can capture any updates there in the Convening template. Really quick, I want Vici, if you could click on the template for me, and I want to just show them where they can capture some of the things I'm describing. And so the big step forward template is here for you. It just asks a couple of questions to kind of get your juices flowing on where does your team want and need to be in this moment, right? Do we have our bet fully realized? Are we overthinking it? Are we trying to test too many things too soon? Get down to the nitty gritty of where your team is and ask yourself some just really basic questions like, what's missing from the little bit? What steps can your team to fill in gaps identified by your little bit? Like, do you need extra support? Do you need to call in your principal, director? Are you seeing, an opportunity to bring in more team members to your team? And what would that look like, right? So anything that you think your team needs to do to be successful in this moment, to take steps forward, you can capture that here in the template. Additionally, if you scroll back up to slide 3, yep, thank you, Vici. Use this template again as you're collecting feedback around your pitch from those stakeholders, okay? So make sure that you have this up when you talk to your director or your funding, whoever it is you decide and you've identified in that stakeholder activity. You want to come back to this template and capture their feedback to save it, because it'll prove valuable, I'm sure, throughout the program. And if we could pivot back to the deck real quick. one more thing, Vici, for me, if you could, sorry, if you could, a little shuffle there, it's okay. Could you click on the stakeholder activity for me, just so I can drive down where you can find this information that you guys have already done in a previous convening. So this is a stakeholder analysis template that we used. I think it was Convening 2. And so you've already filled this in, you've taken the time to identify these folks, right? And so specifically, you want to pitch your pitch you created today to the section that is high power. So that is over to the left, right? So Vici, yep, circling that. So if you can see right there where she's circling with her cursor, these are the people that you want to reach out to schedule those meetings to go over your pitch. Okay, so CEOs, directors, all that will be found in this high power section. So just wanted to close that loop of instructions to make sure you guys revisit that document and know where to look for the folks to invite to that meeting. And let's see, is that it? I think that's it. And just one more thing I'd like to say, teams will just be moving again, like you've heard today many times, teams will be moving at different paces and spaces, right? And so that is okay. And think very succinctly about what you want the next phase of this to be, right? And then lastly, in the what's coming and what's next, I'll just generate this really quickly, one click. We have our upcoming Convening 6 actually on August 10th from 1 to 3. So put that on your calendars. You guys should already have that information. And of course, we will remind you about what's coming up. And we have our winner circle for today. I did some drawings and raffles with the names wheel while you guys were working hard. And so Vici, if you click the slide for me, it'll appear our winners for today. Click it one, I think maybe one more time. And today's winners are Alyssa Stafford and Megan Boyd. Woo! Prizes coming your way, friends. And thank you so much for being here and sharing the space and participating with us today. And you guys have done some really amazing work. Megan, I see you with jumping in there and elevating the powerful and strong work that you guys are doing with the driver. Alyssa, I see you leaning into your meetings in a very powerful way with Southwest and always saying the thing that needs to be said, and just really driving down on what you guys want to be true for your staff with reformative practices at your school. So congrats again. I will definitely let you guys share you guys' gifts soon. And then lastly, the action items between this convening and next convening are just completing those post work activities as assigned. And so we have about 10 minutes here left over. Please go ahead if you'd like to offer us some feedback about how this convening felt today. This convening for me felt really joyful, but super informative and super grounding. But I'm curious to hear what you think. And so if you can pull out your phones, scan your barcode there and let us know your feedback. Or if you want to just use the link, we'll drop that in the chat for you to share some feedback about how you think convening went today. Because we love to hear your feedback. We love everything you guys have to say about how we can improve this. So please, there's always an invitation there to elevate that.